Welcome to Quote and Conquer, the podcast where powerful words meet powerful action. Let's conquer one quote at a time. Fear is not a wall that stops us. It's a doorway that leads to a life that's meant to be lived. Hi, everyone. It's Joey Walters. I'm your host of Quote and Conquer, the podcast where powerful words meet powerful action. Fear, it's not real. It's a story that we create in our mind. And the truth, we lie to ourselves more than we ever lie to anybody else. We create stories of failure, rejection, and embarrassment. And fear is a huge part of us living this lie. It's the brain's way to protect us from discomfort and danger. It's not the weight that you're lifting, it's the story that you're telling yourself that you can't do it. It's not starting the business, it's the story that you tell yourself that you cannot grow the business and you will not be successful. The truth, fear is just a signal. It means that we're stepping into a territory of growth. So without further ado, I can't wait to get into this week's quote. Do one thing every day that scares you, by Eleanor Roosevelt. It's a simple principle that can transform your life, but how many of us don't actually live it? We just read it. So, a little bit about Eleanor Roosevelt. She was the former First Lady of the United States. She was married to Theodore Roosevelt. She's known for her courage, her advocacy for human rights, and the voice for people that were voiceless. She lived by this quote. She faced criticism, she overcame personal insecurities, and became one of the most respectful women in history. So now I want to talk about how I have lived this quote throughout my life. And I'm going to talk about a few stories. So I'm going to take you back to a time, 3 years ago when I had a life-changing moment and I said, you know what, enough's enough. I asked myself, this one morning, would I follow and lead myself? And the answer to that was maybe. And I said, if I wouldn't follow and lead myself, how could I lead my family into the unknown and get a desired result? How could I lead my team in my business and in my executive role? And so it really took me back. And what was I scared to face? And it was the fact that I didn't want to do the hard work. I was scared of failing when it came to my health. And so today, every time when I get into the gym and I want to get to that next level and I want to lift heavier weight, not because I necessarily want to grow more muscle. Yes, that's secondary. For me, it's about how do I achieve a higher level? How do I push myself to that next level by lifting that heavy weight and not being scared and knowing that I am going to do whatever it takes to push myself outside my comfort zone so I can get to that next level. Second, I've had setbacks in many businesses that I have started and I've launched them and I've done really well and then things haven't going. So, the courage for me, when I started my coaching business, when I started writing my book was, let's not look at the failure. Let's look at, what happens, what if everything works out, everything positively, pushing myself outside my comfort zone. For many years, I felt like, how could I coach other people when I didn't believe that I was 100% successful? But that was a lie. That was fear trying to hold me back. And so I was able to push myself, working with my coach, and creating my new identity and having the high standards and discipline and the right habits to push myself to, start my coaching business, to start this podcast, and to, write a book and everything that I have been able to accomplish over the last many years. Also, I've had many setbacks in my life, where I've hit rock bottom, both financially, mentally, suffered from panic attacks, as I've spoken to many, many times, suffered from shame and guilt. In many instances, one coming from my divorce, me looking at how I am as a father, as a partner, as a leader, and so forth. And so, really, choosing to do hard things. Hi, everyone. Quick interruption from the episode. If this is speaking to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification because you don't want to miss out. And share it with someone who may need it. The link is in the episode notes. It only takes a moment and it can change someone's life. I believe in divine timing, and that can put the right message in front of the right person at the right time to make a huge difference. So let's make this happen together. And without further ado, let's get right back in the episode. Lastly, I'll take you to a time when I was on vacation in Negril, Jamaica, and we visited Rick's Cafe. And it's a famous cafe where you can jump off a cliff into the ocean, and then they have professionals that jump from a higher, um, greater distance into the ocean, and they do this for money every single day. So I remember that day very, very clearly. We were driving, to Rick's Cafe. It was raining, and then the rain cleared, and it got very, very hot and humid. And we were sitting there, and I was debating whether I should go or not. And I said, no, I'm going to do this. And so I walked up, and I remember my heart was racing, and I got to the point and I started second guessing myself. And when I looked over, I'm like, am I going to really do this? And I started to get this fear into my mind, and I said, forget it. You know what? I'm going to jump, and I'm going to have the courage to take this on and accomplish it. And I did. And I faced my fears and I jumped off, and I can tell you it was total freedom. And from that day forward, every time I get into a difficult situation, I look at, the fearful moments that I had, and when I push myself outside my comfort zone, and I rely on those because I know for me, I can get to that next level if I just push myself through the fear, run into it, accomplish whatever I want to accomplish at that moment in time by relying on my past and looking at when I overcame fear and when I was successful when I did. So now I'm going to give you 5 things that you can do to overcome any fear that you have and to create a habit that you do one thing that scares you every single day. And the first thing you need to do is identify the fear. What is it? Is it making that phone call, sending that text, doing that workout, starting that business, maybe asking for a raise? Maybe it is saying that, you know what, I'm going to go back to school, or I want to change my profession. Write it down and make sure you keep track. Second, take micro action towards whatever scares you and keep track of it. When you keep track of the things that were scary to you, that you were fearful of, and you accomplish it, you can go back and look at this list and saying, wow, look what I've accomplished every time I have been scared and fearful, and look how far I have gotten. This is going to recreate your identity. You're going to create this habit where when you get into a very fearful or scary situation, you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to tackle it like I have before. The third thing is you're going to reframe your mind. When you say, I'm scared and I'm fearful of making that phone call, instead of saying, you know what, this could turn out bad, say, you know what happens if this turns out really, really good? What happens if this turns out like the other times that I was scared and fearful and I pushed myself through? Reframe everything that you're telling yourself, because you're telling yourself a lie. And as I've said before, we lie to ourselves every single day, and we do this more than we lie to others. And I'm not condoning that we should lie to our others, but why would we lie to ourselves? Our mind plays tricks on us, and it is nothing but a liar. Number 4, anchor yourself into a big win. Every time you feel like you're in a situation that, you're in a very scarceful situation, come from a place of a big mission. Say to yourself, what am I fighting for? What's my why? Start playing bigger, start dreaming bigger, as I've talked about in other podcasts. You need to change your identity. This fear is holding you back. It's trying to keep you safe, but it's really making you lie to yourself, and it's holding you back from what you truly, truly want. So, anchor yourself in a bigger way and dream bigger and push yourself through. And the last thing I would say is Push yourself to do tough things like lifting heavy weights or putting yourself into a tough situation. Courage compounds itself. It's like a muscle. And when you push yourself through a fearful situation, you will start to, look for ways on how you can push yourself into, a very uncomfortable situation. One of the things that I have done at the end of each year is that I go and I walk for 4 hours straight. And I do this in the morning, and I do this as part of my year end ritual to cleanse everything that I've gone through that year. I think about all the great things, I think about all the setbacks that I've had, and all the painful and the powerful situations. And, I help build this muscle that I want to tackle anything that is fearful in my life, because I know that's going to set me free from where I am and where I want to go. So, I'm going to leave you with this. Here's my challenge for you today. Don't just listen to what I said. Go out there and act it. Go and take action. The story that you're telling yourself, it's a big lie. Face your fears. Change yourself, because you can rewrite your story right now. You are the author. You're the holder of that pen. Don't let fear hold you down. Let it, face it, and embrace it. Well, that's all for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you got something out of it, and that way you can go and implement it. Remember, I always say, don't just hear the words, live them. You only live life once. So, what are you waiting for? The world is yours to conquer. Definitely running with the soldiers on this one.